the Sangha process. I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the merit of the Dharma and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Holding heart step, maybe heart sutra.
Oh, it's okay. So we're going to keep going and read the Heart Sutra, which is the next prayer in English, please.
Beyond words, beyond thought, beyond description, Prajnaparamita, unborn, unceasing, the very essence of space, yet it can be experienced as the wisdom of our own awareness. Homage to the Mother of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. In the language of India, Bhagavati Prajnaparamita Hridaya. In the language of Tibet, Chongpen Dema Shera Kipala to Chimpe Ningpo. In English, the Heart Sutra. In one volume, homage to the Bhagavati Prajnaparamita. Thus have I heard. Once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir at Ultra Mountain, together with the great gathering of monks and the great gathering of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One enters the samadhi that examines the dharmas called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should those noble men and women learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? Thus he spoke, and noble Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Mahasattva, answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those noble men and women who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form, and form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, concept, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not pure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no concept, no consciousness, no no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no dharmas. There is no quality of sight, and so on, until no quality of thought, and no quality of mind consciousness. There is no ignorance, and no wearing out of ignorance, and so on, until no age of death, nor the wearing out. In the same way, there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment for the bodhisattvas, they abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed and true complete enlightenment by means of transcendent knowledge. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, is known as truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of transcendent knowledge is proclaimed. Deyata om gate gate para gate para samgate bodhisattva. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva and mahasattva should learn the profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the noble bodhisattva mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, well done, noble son, it is so, it is just so. Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced, just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and the noble Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering and the world with its gods, men, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoice and praise the words of the Blessed One. Deyata om gate gate para gate para samgate bodhisattva. Namo, homage to the Lama, homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha, homage to the Great Mother, Prajna Paramita. Paying homage to these, may these words of mine come true. Just as long ago the king of the gods, Indra, from contemplating the profound meaning of the Prajna Paramita, the Great Mother, and reciting its words, was able to avert the demonic forces, other negative influences, so in the same way, from my own contemplation on the profound meaning of the Prajna Paramita, the Great Mother, and recitation of its words, by the power of the truth of the Lama and the Three Jewels, may all obstacles to the teaching, listening, hearing, contemplation, and meditation on the Dharma be averted. May they be annihilated. May they be pacified. May they be completely pacified. Whatever is interdependent arising from connection is without cessation and without birth, without end and without permanence, without coming and without going, without division and without unity of meaning. All conditions fully released, teachings released. I bow to the sacred words of the perfect Buddha. May there be good fortune, pacifying the 80,000 types of obstructors, removing harmful, unfavorable circumstances, accomplishing and perfecting those that are favorable. By such auspiciousness, may happiness and excellence be here right now.
So page 12.
Page 12.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and is strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Nehru, the supreme fountain, the four continents, and the sun and the moon. As the Buddha field I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the lamas who possess the three kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings. With my body, wealth, and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization and enlightenment. Prostrations, offerings, confessions, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Please determine the will of the Dharma of the two vehicles and combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Good morning. Tienda ngatu tanda ta Lojong Instruction di TRS di Drikung Lojong seya di ta kechibu shiji chadiyo sares.
So then, today we are here for a teaching on what is called the 7 points of mind training. And the teachings on mind training are very important.
Tango Yorwa, Yina Yata Tinane, something that's all that Wong Korea, La Soba, Tindi Yori, Yina Yata Tinane, Ransom to do China, Tambo de Karsana, Jim Chani, want to touch him body, the inner yanko, the Pijum Sandon, so the same thing, the Nishendo, the Magina, that one touching body in a piece. Kalika Borwa. Today in duty, the Tango Lojong say at the kitchen ways is.
So, in general, there are many different types of Dharma teachings and instructions, and in particular, within those types of teachings and transmissions and so forth, there are practices that there are empowerments and so forth that we receive, and there's all types of things like that. However, Drupon says, in his own thinking, although empowerments are extremely sacred and profound, first though, we need to understand their context, and we need to understand them deeply, in our minds, and we need to understand where these practices all happen and develop certainty and confidence within that. And so, first, starting out by having confidence in training our minds is really essential. Otherwise, if we just start out by receiving empowerments and so forth, we might not really understand how sacred and profound they are. So then, first, in terms of this Lojong tradition, then in particular also in the Drikung lineage and so forth, these trainings come through the glorious master Atisha, and so we can learn some about his life story.
To cup shagla, Teneta number Sanji Beki Chu, Jatan, that Tembang, Sungadar Labori, Tembangadar Kala, Sunsen Gambo, Tatine, Margine, and Nambechu, Chochambuji, Tavari, Teneti Chi Sola, Ata Nambechu Tadi or Tina Yanda, Terido, Tapitu Higanis, Tine. And the Tibetan poop that has a west side war. Ngari Chola, Tini, and that Yabu, Segura Yabu, Tini, Halamai Hills, Yores, Shin that tea, Kikochi, Tamade, Tanzamalenko, Katrina Chico, Manda, Chiki, Nungiorwa, Tindi Chichi, Kandanya, Tanata. Kachik Masenari, today, my young cheating, and the Salama Hill there, Zonghana Dables. That's Zonghana Dachi, Tine, that Koranke, Kasegore, the option the Mason, Sono, the Tedo, Choran, that Buddha Dharma, Tachunia Nechia, Jambu Doma Tombina, that Kata Kasegoti, Mason, Chibu Sarawati Chirina. Target is Tine Tigana Yeke, Yam Tatemaina, Choranki, Lubuk, Sino Gila, Septic Grace, Tindi Meganata, Choran Higres, Tiligi, Chomboroa, Techune.
So then, if we look at the story that involves Atisha, so Atisha lived, just for context, about 1,000 years ago. And so, in general,
the Buddha came and taught the Dharma, and it spread throughout India. And then in what is called the period of the earlier spread of the teachings, this began with the king, the emperor Songtsen Gampo. So that was about 1400 years ago or so. Songtsen Gampo lived, and at that time, Buddhism became established in Tibet. It spread to Tibet and so forth. And then within Tibet, then Buddhism became more and more popular. And so a few hundred years after that, then there was a king by the name of Lojong Instruction. Lalama Yeshe. So you can just say King Yeshe. And so at that time, 1,000 years ago, this was like times where everywhere in the world there was fighting and warfare, and Tibet also had fighting and warfare, and so there were various kind of like Muslim armies coming back and forth.
So some people ask me, why this Chinese conquered Tibet? Maybe Tibet must be good karma. So maybe be compassionate, really have good karma. But I said maybe not, so. So they war with China, war with, Mongolia, so everywhere. So also, these days very bad, war, fight. But then also, not only this time, just since beginning, yes, fight each other. So,
So a long time ago, during this time of the king Yeshe, there was fighting and warfare, and so he was captured and thrown in prison. And he was imprisoned in western Tibet, in a place called Ngari. And so he was given 3 options by his prisoners. And so they said, option number 1, if you give up your practice of Buddhism and you no longer take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha and so forth, then you can just leave. We'll let you just walk away. Just give up your refuge, give up Buddhist practice, and you're free to go. Option number 2 was essentially that your son, if I understand this correctly, your son can pay your ransom in your weight of gold. So, just give us, your weight in gold, and then we'll just take the gold, and then you can go. So that was option number 2. And then doorway number 3 was that, or if you refuse to do either of those things, then you can just die in prison.
So Chancho Wooks, the artist, the Chancho Wook, Parang, Agila, Samala certainly rule chicken, and for set Tino chicken, Lombaris, then Lone, Parang Lama Hiu Lobata, which was St. Magis, so set of Chafara, Indiji, Shubikala, Chancho Wook, Lama Hiu Karsum, Sematanga. Tarwala, Zonghana Tarwala, Tetsam Simtian Yang Yachambu, Panto to Yatanita, Yungamaris, Tele, 다 단다디 번내 아티샤티와 날란타를 think that so 다 날란타 되고 다 날란타다 다 되고 상지 때마다 다르사디 아르차디요리 디 나오는 다 university 센터에 날란타 커머히리 둘아 알아서 여러와 디 나오는 날란타 펜트다 아tin samjime chawa 펜트다 인바타 그러나 이게 tene ta nyamle tindi ta karsa gore tindi ke lama za chimbo tindi ji yores tinda chona ya set ya jale ki tindi chimi de hubris
So then, in this way, in the story, the king, Lama Yeshe, he had a brother by the name of, or like a male family member by the name of Changchuk Wu. And so Changchuk Wu went off and he traveled around and he gathered up gold. He went and then came to Lama Yeshe. He got word to him and he said, "Don't you worry. We have been rounding up the gold and we're going to pay the ransom and get you out." And Lama Yeshe said, No. Really, if I am able to get out of prison, I might be able to get out of prison and so forth, but even if I do, I'm not going to benefit sentient beings in a vast way. And instead, in the land of India, there is this master, Atisha, who studies at the great center of learning, Nalanda, like a great university. Also, there are other universities like Kamala, Shila, and so forth. And so there, where there are these lamas, these gurus who practice and who study and have incredible sacred qualities, he told his brother, you should go find the master Atisha in India and offer the gold to him.
that tindi indu tigana yike dati ngarang ke tanda zo che jo ke nupa khari yor sena tinde otri da changjo ko da tindi panya adikhan ro de ma so da ji phu ki le de thaya da tindi pe kale khabo es ya tindi shubi ka la tindi salama yiho kane khabo maris thonda ngarang monam ja chi jabi yos 그나 이 비니에 기타 점내 권조선 잡조지네 기타 정국도 동바 마통와 텔라야 누가 삼지미 차워예스 딘디인도 정반대가 되시하더니 연탕 토브레스
So then the brother Changchuk Wu said to the king, Lama Yeshe said, look here, like, I can't just show up in India and think that I can, waltz up to Atisha and just say, how about you come all the way up to Tibet? He's like, it's not going to work. Atisha's not just going to do what I want and, come to Tibet, gold or not. And Lama Yeshe, the king, he said, no. I'm making prayers and aspirations. You don't know the power of going for refuge and keeping the refuge vow has inconceivable power and benefit. I'm praying in this way. If you go take the gold to India, you'll be able to get Atisha to come.
어다 딘디 인데네 다 코랑케 빈자케 딘디 팀테네 이 제체테네 야 나란탈테 도레 나란탈람도 tene pande adishala tene self-puji takna tene je tene polia pebrochis tene shuyorwa tende shube kala pande adisha ke ta kitan polon roya tela jumseni yores Jumsen Jake Carta, take out a pool of cars and mining the gold curious are famous week that good Jipuk, Casacala, Tenepu, Yakapto Chimbuchi, Tenecoranso, that gold mining gold curious are. Tine, Jita, bent that market the Casabel. Chochier, Choto, that Kanda, Tindi, Samana, Poland Reatella, that Chochi, Jimseni notice, Jimsen, Jade, Carson, also the Sergis. Sergio go over it, Tindi, and the Poland over this. That Kaji young, they has a Ningicham Loris, only Simjana Pantona. Who can metal a Pantona on the Behasa and the something which are Ningicham Loris. Tindi in the Panera Adia Kalata Naraya Artine, Tindi, selling out at some dickie, Chapalo, and sell book to sell book to Saba. Tindi, Alola Meadows. Tigana Yikanaya, Ningicham Yomaris. Simjana Pantoya. Tindi be Jim Handle again. I put on the man's Laboa.
So, in that way, the brother Changchuk, then he went off to Nalanda in India with all the gold. And he came to the master, the glorious master Atisha, and he offered this large amount of gold. And with this offering, he requested, please, Master Atisha, come to Tibet and share the Dharma. And so the Master Atisha said, these days there are two reasons why Indian Dharma teachers go to Tibet. The first is that in Tibet there's a lot of gold that is being mined. Tibetans had at that time a lot of gold to be found, and so a lot of siddhas, mahasiddhas, great learned scholars and so forth, they were going to Tibet because they could get that gold. And Atisha said, so that's the first reason for gold. And then the second reason was that a few of the masters of India actually go to Tibet because of their great compassion. And they have compassion for Tibetans, and they want to benefit them. And so Atisha says, so there's these two reasons why people go to Tibet. So the first reason for going to Tibet, Atisha said, I myself, I don't really need gold. I don't want gold. I don't have a thought in my mind, I need to get that Tibetan gold. And so he said that first reason doesn't work. And then he said, second of all, I don't really have a lot of compassion. And so also, out of compassion, I don't want to go to Tibet either.
Ina yada karsenatine chancho wukitine reason story koran product nitu khande chongyowa telatine that story huyorwa ti hubi kalatine pandya khapa ta samje michabe keta lotop chembo wa ta ti kita nglam ja chembo ta sha kingi ta na chingni ta podum rogudo sma dogis ina yada tiskale khapores Karsati Gala Pandya Diata Chi Karsabur, the Nalan Takana, Koradoa, Tintangaji, Vararia, typically Kabori, Sintana, Taki Mabuchi, Taki was in Labo.
So Atisha spoke and said this, but then the Changchuk Wu, the brother of the king, then said, well, let me tell you why I'm here and the story. So Changchuk Wu then explained the whole story of how his brother the king was in prison, and how he gave up his freedom to send the gold to India to get Atisha to go to Tibet, and also the king wouldn't revoke his going for refuge, his refuge vows. And when Atisha heard, where the gold had come from, then, he said, whoa, that is really an inconceivably powerful prayer and aspiration. And so because of that, I will go to Tibet. But then Atisha said, but it's not going to be easy. Here I am the abbot of the monastery, on the monastery, and I have all this work I need to do. I need to take care of the monastery, teach people and so forth. And so, it's not going to be easy for me to relieve myself of duties and go to Tibet. So I need to be skillful.
다 tendencies 다 장쇼 세 답조 나는 달이야 그 지금 반대하듯이 하는 기분이 보를 펴보고 tendencies 가다 내가 나야 그런 스토리 car administration 가리나 달이야 쉬게 가라 어다 데이터스 이내요 다 반대하듯이 로직 마도 다 배초고 말이스 디지털 되게 거라 담자하고도 다 원래 등산로 산 원산
And so then Changchukwu, the brother of the king, then went to Nalanda and he offered the monastery all the gold to support the monastery and relayed the story of why he was there and how he came to be inviting Atisha to Tibet. And so the administration of the monastery, they said, once they had heard the story, they said, okay, Atisha can go to Tibet under one condition. Atisha and you must sign an agreement that Atisha will only be able to be in Tibet for 1 year, tops.
어떤 tendency네 되는 볼 패버리 볼 담보가리를 패는데 다 심심 빠도면 노동치 되네 다 대치네 되네 다 본소 연구로 와 볼 연구에 가라 일단 창조 넘주세요 와 people familiar 반내라디 해다 저거에 더 점유로 해 창조 넘주세요 대장은 담보커랑 나한테 바꿔도 나한테 바꿔 당말 용도 스티커는 not easy로 travel 용도로 한다는 대로 일하러 와 있는
So the Changchu Longju,
장조 람주 I don't know the English
the path of enlightenment.
yeah I think probably they already translated
No.
No, not that.
I don't know exactly 100% they already translated
Yeah.
maybe so anyway so that take go 담보 반나네 달 땅도 tap sending to 나네가 근데 아디하고 다 유무스 저 long to on time 텔라베 가서 나는 다 탭로그요 와 탭로그 항상 답에 저 베미스기 이게 다 아니 친구들 있을 때 담아서 나는 다 데리고 스타처럼 고디하는 데그레스 라블라
The Chunki Kijema Pula Dena
데그레스
Tusurimbo Dena Choki. So Changchu Longjun Topson. The Sachamu. So then, so Tambo Ngari Lape, Ani Dodunche, then in Sirla.
저 야갈 유무요
So then, in the story, then first Atisha went to Western Tibet in this place called Ngari. And there he benefited beings in a vast and inconceivable way. And then he went back to Nalanda. And
on the way lo
so then on the way,
right
Nalanda level.
레마사 근데 그런 담보 탭 sending to 탭 담보 나네 땅으로
Ted Nalanda level.
아야리
Gonda. So then on his way to Tibet, then he sent a book to India, to Nalanda. And so the name of this book is the Chanchuk Lamju, which essentially means the stream of the path of enlightenment. And so this is definitely translated as one of Atisha's famous teachings. And so when the monks and so forth at Nalanda saw this book and saw the teachings, then it was so profound, and they were so inspired that they said, "This is incredible. Now that you have offered us this, stay in Tibet as long as you need."
What tendencies that when they are here, that tendency that pull power. I'm not sure exactly. He maybe once come to Nanata, I think, maybe short term. I'm not sure exactly. But then he tried to again Tibet and the pull level is.
So then maybe he went back to Nalanda for a short period of time, possibly, but then eventually he made it to Tibet.
Didn't Koronata for life. Didn't that and the trade, didn't Namgyal, that's all because in central Tibet. The Ganaita Kasakala Pedwa, East Tibet period.
So then, for then the rest of his life, then he was there, and he was in Tibet, and he gave instructions, and he meditated, and foremost he spent time in central Tibet, but then he also traveled to eastern Tibet as well.
That he Kabla Karsanata, Jipula interesting service. Can you consider Nigeria? Pook translator Mambo Shuji, Jalan Guyore, Cinema Pool Lepaguyore. Tigana Yeke, India, Mahasida, in this scholar Mamboji, Pool Guyore. That also no Mambo, that better than Tigoro, Rahik, Sanara, Chine. Today, that's a mathology, young Chalam to the Union. Today, daughter, so Chidoya. Gahe young Tata, Mahamuda Mahabu, Malaysia, and the water. That Mahamuda and the Benengaji, the one with hard strategy, the Jiboma Toyanji, same thing to Tondo, the Mewa, the Jikis, the Kasa, Kalaji, Tatsu Bodo, Jik, Lamberbashi, the Jubik, Yamando, and Pula. This kind of way is over.
And so it was an interesting time in Tibet. There were many translators from Tibet that went down to India to receive teachings from the Indian masters, and then there were also many Indian masters that came to Tibet, and these Indian masters taught the instructions of secret mantra, gave teachings on the path of desire and union, and some taught like the Mahamudra Ganji's tradition, and some of them kind of went beyond kind of the basic teachings of like the Heart Sutra, and didn't really teach the stages of the path and so forth. And so there were all these kind of like high advanced teachings and kind of secret mantra teachings being spread everywhere.
What I think the Canada, but now I hear them that one in Lumber and Bushing the Junior Bertama to Gajukin on that Taboruji. That is Jubacha the Orwa. That bear massive, which is Lumber and Bushing the Juyaki, that Tinichi didn't book chicken Hambatella. Some Jimachawa, Dembo, Lumber and Bushing the Duani, so Nitin, Chapo, Chaps and Lava. 做的东西呢，大青年的把那里下家里有的，是的，中东东西也是。
So then, in that way, Atisha, recognizing this situation in Tibet, then made it his mission to teach the different stages of the path, so that people knew how to progress through the stages of the path correctly. And in the Kagyu tradition, this lineage was passed on to the master Dako Gampopa, the famous famous master Genpopa. And from Genpopa, it spread throughout the Kagyu tradition. And so, through Atisha's efforts and teachings, then the way of practicing correctly according to the stages of the path is spread throughout Tibet in inconceivable ways. And, especially the spread of the tradition of how to practice the cultivation of bodhichitta, the enlightened mind. So really, this all can be traced back to the master Atisha's efforts and teachings. So everyone has the text. Lojong. So does everyone have the 7 points of mind training? George told me example. So then, of Atisha's students, foremost among them was the master Drong Tongpa. And then Drong Tongpa's students, one of the foremost of them was the master Geshe Chekawa. And so this 7 points of mind training, this really comes from the master Geshe Chekawa. He was the one that wrote the root text on the 7 points of mind training. So then of these 7, the first is the preliminaries. And so it is taught of the preliminaries. The teaching is first trained in the preliminaries. So that is the teaching of the preliminaries. So then the second of these 7 points is the main practice. And the main practice is the practice of bodhichitta. So then the third point of the 7 points of mind training is transforming adversities into the path of enlightenment. And so this is when we can utilize problems and turn them into the path, take them as the path. So then the fourth then is applying the practice throughout our entire life.
Lojong testing Lojong level
and so then the fifth is essentially taking measure of how we measure our mind training, measuring the extent of how well we have trained our minds.
Then 다 두바데 로종 잠색이스.
So then the sixth point are the commitments of mind training.
다 둠바데 로종 랍야.
Oh, so we could say the six are the commitments of mind training, or the samayas of mind training, and then the seventh is called the precepts, but in a way, it kind of means the trainings within mind trainings, the things that we study to be able to practice.
다 담보들라 다 담보 같이 저기 지나나 통말 모두 다라라 스티로와 그다.
So then, first, when it comes to these first points, the root teaching says first train in the preliminaries.
다 텔라 가리오레스나 근데 다 랑케 근데 지고조도 라마도 보는데스.
So then, when we do this, then first we meditate on our gurus, on our crowns.
제양 제단양도 뒤 주바 꾸인지 다 딜라마티한테는 라마 찍마이 바데네 주비키다 라마 꾸인그 모이바 삼브레스.
So we shouldn't just think that our lama, our teacher, is just a single teacher, but we should imagine that all the lineage lamas and gurus, all of them are embodied within our own teacher that we imagine on our crown.
다 텔와 다 라마디 다 개체쇼지 차디요리 이나양 라마세야 간디게리 있어야 되가 다 먹으나 즉 텔레양 대바지야 텔레이 체제야 고 컨피덴트 유 나카보르와 이나다 딜라 디시 디시 슈고서 삼도스.
So it's really interesting. The guru in this tradition, the teacher, is the most important and really key, and it's very sacred and profound. However, if we don't have a lot of experience in this tradition and understand the context why that is, then it's kind of strange. If somebody just says, well then, visualize this, imagine this Tibetan or Indian master on your crown and have faith and devotion towards them, it doesn't quite make so much sense. So we kind of need to understand the context.
다가서 갈라고 그러서나 라마 주바 슬라브도와.
So when we talk about the guru, the teacher, one aspect of it is the lineage of the teacher.
다 뒤인도 빼나 센스 상지 샤자토바 코랑게 멋지게 체자 근데 체고 그래 추게 내로도 때 때때니 즉 추게 내로도 차잖아 즉 몸내네 드니제라 딱 코랑게 디서포르지 딱 코랑 로마테 차버레스.
So when we talk about the lineage of the teachers, we talk about a lineage that goes back all the way to the original, the Buddhist Shakyamuni. And the Buddhist Shakyamuni taught individuals, and they became his students. And so from the Buddhist Shakyamuni on, teachers would teach students. And what happened in that teaching? The teachers would instruct the student on the nature of how things truly are. And when the students gain that realization and understanding fully, then that counts as passing on the lineage.
나 대형한테네 나도 대형다. 대형도와 맨날 자샤비나 한번 롱세야지 요레스.
So then additionally, there is something that is called Lojong, which we could maybe translate as transmission, sometimes called scriptural transmission.
다 대양 맨날 상지 샤샤도 받고 제기 코나 로마텔라 상지 샤샤도 받고 송 되네 더 송네 하죠티 코바텔라 롱 슬라고레스 고트라고 보데와지라.
So then, in the beginning, the transmission referred to the words of the Buddha that he taught his students. And so, when those words of the Buddha were received by his students and they were understood, those words that were understood and passed on, that was what is called the Lojong, the transmission.
다 들은 것도 토바라고 그러와. 다 바이 그 투네 통행 그 로마티기다 곰네. 네. 곰네 되네. 다 티기 냠뇽 제대와. 제가 되네. 다 냠뇽 제비나 되네 냠뇽 진압 그 주바세야 되네. 무티거든. lepioes.
So then, once those students would hear the teachings, and then not only just hear and understand those teachings, but they would put them into meditation practice. When they would put those into practice and gain true experience and realization, then they became part of what is called the lineage of practice and the lineage of blessings of experiential practice.
我在天地前呢，没当没住掉啊，娘娘堂娘娘住掉啊，但前两堂前两住掉，天地见了，对呢，但我做来来去那么是那个意思。
So then, when we talk about lineage, it includes this personal, one, person to another, a direct connection of passing on instructions. It includes the practice of those instructions and the realization and deep understanding of those instructions. And so, thus, it includes the blessings of the entire lineage being passed on one after the other.
我在天地之前，大上去中间连了不有那里，本来他那搞错了，本来阿弟下年，这个就把这马起哇，天地之有哇的啦，那么是那不意思。
So in that way, the lineage that went from the Buddha Shakyamuni all the way to the Indian master Atisha, and then the lineage that continued from the master Atisha all the way to the lamas today that embody the full elements of that, the lineage. These people that embody that have that lineage, they are called, true lamas.
这个呢，以前他工作企业拉嘛，他们同他们南克拉嘛是要去因为我也是。
So then, furthermore, there is what is known as the relative outer guru or teacher, and then there is the ultimate inner guru.
他工作企业拉嘛老过嘞，这个呢，以前个是出年来起的，去那考了，他讲的帮助上是要去开起么样个嘞？他在开始呢，本来상제 기능에 송샤비 추 디탄다 냠랭기 주바키니 겐두 세야텔라 다 당보다 땡고인 거예요. 그러와 다데 때네 지 상제 기추 대 송샤바데 겐두를 때네 냠랭치니 베다다 냠랭의 치롱바디 치미나 근데 다 단다디 고지 나서 파스로 차버려 상제 본조다 말에만 추우 본조다 인도 본조니 보디 다 특사디 상지모로 두고요 말했어. 잠나 상지 약적인 정도와 타토기 잡는데 상지라고 했어. 다 상지 태양 되네 다 다니 동티고 하는 거죠. 이날라마 그러봐. 이날라마 가서 나도 다 지금 뭔가한테 나보나 나버려. 용과 당소미나 맞고 그 줄을 요게 랑키셈 대당 진짜 단계기 상계기 셈이 이해내 가지고 얘는 탈도기 가서나 라마디 라마 잡이로 했어.
So then, when we talk about the outer relative Lama, when we do our practice, we take refuge in the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Buddha, came and taught the Dharma, and so the Dharma consists of the instructions of the Buddha, and then those that have practiced that Dharma without interruption are known as the Sangha, the practitioners of the Dharma. And so when we practice, when we set out on the path, these days to really connect with the tradition of Buddhism, we need to rely on the supports of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha together. And ultimately, these all the Sangha helps us practice the Dharma and access the Dharma, which helps us access the Buddha and Buddhahood. So ultimately, though, it comes down to the Buddha, and the true ultimate Buddha is the inner Lama, the Guru. And we realize this in our own minds, when our minds are free from afflictive emotions and all afflictive emotions are purified, then our own inner mind is the mind of the Buddha, the mind of Buddhahood itself. And so ultimately, the ultimate Guru is the inner Guru of our own mind. And so, this is realized when our own minds, we realize that they are inseparable from the nature of the Buddha's minds.
So do you have some questions about the lamas? Patella dig the chance of to other Yuna, we have degrees, something like that. Lila Pakoya Buddhist.
So, in this way, if you have, something arises where you have a question about this, this is a good time. It can be good to ask and to make sure that you understand, so we can work through those questions easily.
This last statement that you said, Drupon, about that so there's the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So we're talking about the outer Guru, right? The Buddha, and then from the Buddha is the Dharma, and then from the Dharma is the Sangha of practitioners who practice continually, which is like essentially the lineage. Yeah? And
Yes, so this the inner Lama is part of the Sangha.
okay, the inner Lama is part of the Sangha.
Not inner Lama, sorry. Chi Lama, right? Chi Lama,
So in a way, the outer Lama, the outer Lamas that we rely on are those that, practice the Dharma that came from the Buddha. So the outer Lamas sometimes are considered the Sangha.
Okay, and so ultimately, so maybe that answers my question. Ultimately, then it comes down to the Buddha, the Guru.
Right, so then this kind of like become inseparable. So like Buddha's mind, ultimately, okay, Buddha's mind or Buddha, and your Lama, or whatever Sangha, Lama, as mind, and also your mind, so become like same, inseparable. But the relative level is yes different, so. But the ultimate level is same. So, like for instance, my mind, this is my mind is Buddha, my mind is Lama. So that's what we use. That's the Namgyal TV Nicola, Chick Lama, Zachimurilla, Tirana, Tandanatuta, Tijangan, Namgyal TV. Kadi Sanji Lake, a lot of Kadi Chimbu, what some is ordinary Lama.
So when we talk about the outer Lama in terms of our practice, the one who teaches us and instructs us, sometimes they say even that the kindness of our outer teachers, the outer guru, is even more kind than the Buddhas. Because the Buddhas came, but then they're not here to be kind and teach us. The Lamas are the ones that help us directly.
我在第一句，他等于讲去问那一类，我从逻辑对吧？这边的下下呢，听这个那么的，让个就做了工，就做呢，我们的太阳的那么这样，常见的预备的那么，长毛对的那么滚头跟我，听这个他们就做了工。
So then, in this single essence, we meditate on our crown as there being our outer Lama, our outer teacher, that embodies the nature of all the Buddhas and the lineage gurus that go back in the past. And we imagine that they are all embodied in this single Lama, single teacher on our crown.
That really, what that is 1 minute, that 1 minute. What that Lama de, that and you can't show a Lama de, you get Lama Chatham do the what you read in a form of the Buddha, Buddha, the way you was all the case coming to.
So then, if we meditate now a little bit, it's good. And so let's meditate for a minute. And so we can meditate on the form of, our teacher, our Lama, if we have one, embodying all the teachers of the lineage. And so we can meditate on them in the form of the bodhichitta up above Drupon's head. There's five.
What if you don't have a teacher or a lama?
Buddha community this.
So then you can just meditate on Buddha Shakyamuni.
That's your teacher. That second category, not Lama Joe, Lama Buddha, Joe, show the hotel, Niki same day, Xinjiang, Pempotoba, Chancho said, Jewer show, some of that Canadian, some Chancho and Jewer Chiba, Chingila Ronas, Niki that same day, Chancho Simba, and Charona, somebody, Niki to one, yes.
So then now, we should pray to our lamas, our teachers on our crown. And we pray, please bless us so that we can generate bodhichitta, the enlightened mind, the wish to establish all sentient beings in the state of Buddhahood. Please bless us so that we can become bodhisattvas, heroes of enlightenment.
다 디지에텔라 되네다 딘디제 클로텔라 기용베까라 되네 라마티니 랑키오네 마쇼네 되네다 니키 기지라 되네 단다 랑 셈테다 되네 제 라마 상지 셈 이보다 이해메와 나즈마 인가라 효소 사마마스.
So then we should imagine then that the Lama, the teacher on our crown, melts into light and dissolves into our crown and dissolves down into the center of our hearts. And so with that, then we should imagine that our mind and the mind of our teachers become completely inseparable.
어다 디인도 데레다 단다디 타테서모 당고 그래 라마세야 텔라양 지가 군조 공원에 지 라마 먼저오다 다디 용거리 디나야 온담베 킬라마데 카르사나 라마셈 로와 셈지노지 우세와 순두 데지 베나차샤위나 참외 가서 디무요레 차저 친구 감도 있는 대중도와 되네 지 데비 지마주 마음비 kindu 마수비게 단다 히바랑라이랑사 티스티 요가텔라 티는다 랑셈 세나레 라마 세나레 텔촌이 따디 베레스.
So then, outwardly, our teachers, we have like various teachers with various elements of appearance and so forth. However, ultimately, the ultimate nature of the Lama is the luminous awareness of the nature of our own minds. And so, sometimes in the teachings of Mahamudra, the teachings of the Great Seal, it is taught that do not, think about and recollect, thoughts that have already passed. Do not, elicit and summon thoughts about things that will happen in the future. And right now, do not conceptualize, but abide within your own self-awareness, the self-luminous nature of the mind.
Kelwatilande, Benan Debi, Yemachus, Maumbi, Debata Maumbaki, Nantok Mashavik, between Tela, Samsung, Pati, Sitan, Yoris, Yamachingaina, Tela Yoris.
So, when we don't fabricate things about, conceptualize or contrive our minds in relationship to anything that's happened in the past, and we don't, elicit, summon any thoughts about the future. In between thoughts about the past, stuff about the future. In between, if we don't conceptualize what's happening at the moment in that state without any concepts, there is this self-luminous nature of the mind we can see.
Okay. 다 딜다가 다가서 다는데 온도 타라라 송도 프로그램이래. 다 온도데 개체 보인 바래. 다가서 참기 위나래 추념에 가르치기는 다 로도 넘버시스. 다가서 참고 치 온도라고도 치 온도 나 온도 제가 나니까 맞지. 추념에 교치 뭐지다. 로 로섬 조섬라서 같은데 다 참대야 여러 오다 딜이 장약수데 치 모두 만큼 차리오레스 다다마수데 다 치 모두다 라고요레스.
this context, the preliminaries. And so when we talk about the preliminaries in an elaborate way, when we do like elaborate, the elaborate kind of steps of meditation practice, like a 3-year retreat, then there are the outer preliminaries and the inner preliminaries. The outer preliminaries consist of like the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, and then there are also then the inner preliminaries as well. And to really have a strong practice, it's key to begin and have the basis, the foundation of the preliminary practices.
다 대양, 근데 다 체육으로 해달라. 다 정보 대결니 가와 성도와 대결니 가와 근데 다 세메타 말이 레균데 세메타와 서대가 나이라 그렇게 이렇게 나와 되는 직강에서야 되게 해요레스.
So then, in terms of the outer preliminaries, there are 4. There is first contemplating our precious human birth with all the freedoms and advantages that we have, all the opportunities that we have with our precious human birth. And then the second of the 4 outer preliminaries is meditating on death and impermanence, how life is impermanent and we will die. And then the third meditation is meditating on causes and their effects and karma, the causes and effects of good and bad actions and so forth. And then the fourth is meditating on the defects of cyclic existence, the sufferings in the world, in the relative universe.
다 정보들라 다 텐저지물로 세야지 강 리어레스.
So then first of these 4 outer preliminaries, we have the contemplating the precious human birth with its freedoms and advantages.
뒤에 다 제당 according to the teaching라 이 물루데 토야데 스칼릭하고 요레스 오네 레로 토구마레스. 지게와 모말라 레탕 모놈탕 신제 신발라 참바탕 인게라 소베 뭐 지치네 근데 모두다 물루데 토구레 소네.
So then it is taught in these teachings that it's not easy to just happen across a precious human birth. We don't just get to be humans. It's only through accumulating a vast amount of positive merit, having done good actions in previous lifetimes. It's only through making aspirations and prayers and the cultivation of love and compassion and so forth that we get the opportunity to have a precious human birth.
다 뒤에 제당가 좋겠다. 지 개와고메 레탕 모놈 딘리데네 물루된 토벌이 마도 비기 possible 맞죠 직제와 신바 두노라서 비킬레 마시고 말이스.
개원문 레담몽
레탕 모놈당 근데 맞죠 개와들 때네 물루 토벌로 와. 이나 계시도 메이비나 맞다. 두노라서 비케와네 시기레스.
Oh, sigire. Sigimare, sigire.
Mm-hmm.
So, we might hear about this. So, in previous lifetimes, so the teachings explain that it is only through engaging in a lot of virtuous activities, having prayers, having aspirations, and accumulating merit that we have this opportunity, that we are born as a human. And so we might wonder, so if we don't have those things all lined up and in order, then can we be born in other realms, like be born as an animal? And the answer is yes.
다 개당 가서 텐저 물루 이 카보스보다 구매하기 요래 이나다 나랑 상비나 강보 텐저 줄을 쌓친 간지 임바디스 공내 오요서리 로지 챙겨요래 스페니 지속의 기본을 배는 지금 뭐지 뭐라고지 쌓친 뭐 이거지 하고 요사에 숨도스.
So, in the teachings on the precious human birth with its freedoms and advantages, there are, meditations on how it is very difficult to obtain. But also, in addition to that, Drupon says that it's important to think, directly to just how sacred and precious this, body that we have, how this body and the opportunities that it affords us, how it is, special.
다 델라나도 지티요레 스테미네 데로 다 이마고 차 미시랑 치미르 린첸라 이 왕왕안도 뭐 사치 공비롱도 뭐 사치 겐비진자 뭐 사치 나한테 미르 린첸라 공안도 뭐 사치 곡송 말라 뭐 사치 니도르규레 뭐 사치
So the Quran song. So here, this is a special teaching by Drupon himself. He composed this. This is his poetry. So in Drupon's poem about our precious body, it says, Emma, how extraordinary, the precious vessel of the human body. It is truly amazing that the 5 sense faculties function. The blooming of youth is magnificent. The fading luster of old age is magnificent. The inner workings of this precious human body, the 5 solid organs and the 6 hollow organs are amazing. The immune system of the body is amazing. The digestive processes, separating out and absorbing nutrients and dispelling the waste is amazing.
What do you think? 네, 다른 것들이 룰라 삼노타나 나도다 직 공점네 직 자방 롱탕 클레라서 베키 출륜디 지부 그 삼노타미나 그거네 항상 뭔가 침보레스 베네 딩규도 삼노타나 와헨 락 테크놀로지 삼지메 자와로 인터넷 라서 얘네야 즉 body system 코랑 뭐 따위는 never compare. 지치토야 요마로. 테크놀로지 클리제기 누가 요래 수준이라.
So this body is really, incredible. Especially when we start looking at the subtle kind of capacity of what we have, and look at from the kind of advanced perspectives of looking at the subtle channels, the subtle energies, the subtle winds, the subtle bindus or essences that dwell inside of it, and the practices and realizations that we can attain through relying on this body. It's incredible. And so, these days we have, technologies exploding. We have the internet, we have all kinds of incredible technologies and so forth, but they don't really compare to everything that is happening even in a single human body. There's like so much going on that is even more subtle than our technology.
어디 변나 차샤비나 다 맞어 다 자달롱데 들어서 봐 보면 요르디나 다 기나네 변나 맞어 나로 초로세야 기나는 또 몸 보면 요레스 다 제기는 장소 거기들스.
So, when we talk about the practices of the channels, the subtle winds and the subtle essences or bindus, then these teachings are presented in particular in what are known as the 6 dharmas, sometimes called the 6 yogas of Naropa. And in particular, in the first of those, there is the teaching of Tumo, or the teaching of inner fire. Perhaps some of you have heard about this instruction.
다 뒤에 다 되게 다 도모지도 이나 히트 나오리라 이나 히트 나오지고 말해 얘네야 갈서는 다 되게 공부 까라 다 driver 누가 갈통 요래 슬라비나 되게 physically 갈서는 남주도 다 uncomfortable 용해로와 배나차차는 가서 참모로 오려나야 지고요 말이야 배나 참모로 오지 요비나 이 참모디 그 sensation 가리 요와들라 지금 가와 sensation 요나 특sam되게 되네 지칼사보다 less enjoy 딘디 용약하게 이거지 요레스.
So on one hand, the Tumo is sometimes interpreted as, through the words of calling it inner fire or inner heat and so forth. But it's not just limited to heat or fire. It goes beyond the practice, the power of the practice goes beyond that. It even goes to the point where physically, we can experience all types of things. For example, normally if we're cold or chilly, then we experience a discomfort and we're cold. But for someone who has realized Tumo practice, then that sensation itself, the sensations of the body arise and dawn as bliss.
다티 섬광국으로 다티 진압지구를 곰지구를 곰지구 차요 말에 진압지구 진압이 요래 오늘은 봐 요래가 되고 차요 말에 얘는 body current naturally 딘디파지 요래스.
So when we talk about, is it, through the power of blessings alone, that, do the power of blessings alone, have, power into themselves? No. Does meditation alone have, power unto itself, complete power to itself? No. You need them, together. However, if we look at our body is self-contained. So maybe this could be explained. Are blessings, fully functional and self-contained? No, there's other factors that are needed. There's power in blessings, but they're dependent on other things. Is meditation self-contained and independent? No. But our body, the power of our body is.
我在第一路估计见的了，经常旁，然后我们家被开的了，但呢，但没法讲你的 body core system 有的是。这个东西呢，基本的它的两年前的 protection 的卡拉萨个有嘛的，卡拉马扎有的，就卡拉马扎我的当地被卡萨杜果了不多，杜果是的基本上被说白了我们底下有嘛的是吧？卡拉不是卡萨个的，我们肯定不到给。 지금의 단계기 우리 동양 나오면 그 대외 그런 이유가 되게 지금 그래서
and so to really gain the full, realization of practice, then we utilize these circumstances of blessings. We utilize the circumstance of the power of meditation. And then when we practice with our body, then we can receive these blessings. And so there's a lot of interdependent things that create the realization of these kind of subtle practices. And in particular for the body, we need the support of things like food. It is said if we don't nourish ourselves well and we try to meditate, our meditation won't be strong. We'll have weak meditation with weak sustenance. We have weak results. And so if we nourish ourselves well, meditate well with blessings and so forth, then when we meditate in that context, then our meditation is strong and powerful.
내가 나 이랑 가서 니랑 손발에 즉 단들이 즉 안보나 그러와 다른 가서 델라 갈센터 빈조물이 짜친고 인바다다 그가 나 이게 즉 다른 가서 bring joy 그러와 appreciation 그 지구의 사대에서 그러는 가서 즉 안보가 창대가 just normal some 미약한 마인바 즉 안보가 요와 tell appreciation. 근데 you're not something. 좋아지는 거와도 계속 가서 매미나 간대감이 걸어. 매 통이면 하나 가서 매 통고요. 이나타 매 통고요가 tell appreciation.
So when we meditate on a precious human birth and body with its freedoms and advantages, then things like the 5 sense organs are really a source of joy. We realize they're incredible. Normally, we take them for granted. We're not grateful that we have our senses. We're just like, I can see, I can smell. But when we think about the opportunity that we have to see things, if we couldn't see, if we were blind, then that's not great. And so, if we think about things, and don't take them for granted, then, and we really appreciate these, then we realize, oh, this body has this amazing capacity, and we have gratitude.
이내야 딱 가서 쭉 갈세나 당기 공투가 이래 가서 추두고요나 기본되고 용량 기리요래 총자료나 기본되고 총 기리 용구요래 로정 지구요나 다 기본 용량 대고 중요하게 용구요라 이내야 딱 단단 가서 추 지리 깔라 기본되고 용량하게 마용하게 가서 쭉 갈세나 갈세 unsatisfied 와 무슨 도바 막한 지금 가두이나 너와 가야면 와로지와 드니게 때네 맞아 드니게 때 로고 대오 지금 리렉스 연구용 말와 뒤인들 다 tel에 가서 마인 트레이닝 연구위에서 맞아 배모도 희망을 때 positive side로 되는 거 아마 배워래서 맞아 매일요래 암조 고위요래 계속 암조 말고는 같이 가려요 오다 드네 지치네 지 드네 좀 방법을 사서 뒤에도 가서가 enjoyment build up 쇼치를 치는 거나 드네 지 단계기 있고 unsatisfaction 지 너무 막한 와도 그냥 공부받아 가려야 되는 거 총으로 위해서 와
주룩 송갸 송 그런 주룩 송갸 몽갸 주룩 기본
레레 어다 뒤에 가서 단 가서
송갸
데려와
그런 송갸
레 다 가서 난 가서 데려와 알레알레다 코스타 레레 이는 가서 가르치기 나로 내가 가르치기 기본이야 같이 들어와 비즈니스 소자
오케이
소자 레레 오총자고나 기본이야 치들에 로정 체계나 기본이야 같이 들에 다디 기본이야 같이 제기요 이는 양다디 realityเป็น총하고 법이나 태도 satisfy 요 말와 얘는 다 단다 뒤고 satisfy 요나 땅가 좀 장고 있어 와
So, we might wonder, so what's going to make me happy? Is the Dharma practice going to make me happy? Is, developing a good business model and, excelling at our career and making money and so forth, is that going to make us happy? Is meditating going to make us happy? Is studying going to make us happy? Learning about things? And if we, really look at things, we find, for example, we might have what people consider to be a successful career and have a profitable business and so forth, but there can easily be, in addition to that, a lot of dissatisfaction. There's not like a deep satisfaction there. There's not contentment. We still might be wanting to do more and more. And so if we think about all the different ways we're not satisfied in our life, they are many. And so instead of getting lost in all these outer forms of dissatisfaction, sometimes it's important to appreciate what we have, to think about just our ability to see, our opportunity to see things in this world, our various senses, and the opportunity that we have to practice and meditate and really make use of this lifetime. And if we focus on these, if we train our mind to practice gratitude with the important opportunities we have to live a meaningful life, then that dissatisfaction that occurs in our normal lifetimes becomes less and less, and our appreciation and gratitude for what we have gets stronger and stronger.
Do you have questions?
Drupon, what do you think, this is maybe a little left field, but what you were saying just brought it up. The material world, like we have so many richness, and I was thinking with the two mode, and it's kind of like an Olympic level of being a yogi, but we have these Olympics. We don't have meditation Olympics, And I wondered in Tibet, they have a little study of it, but I was wondering, would that create obstacles for people, the competitiveness, but it kind of made me show like the most content person should get a medal, the most, I wondered like in Tibet, or like Bhutan says like the gross national happiness. I just wonder if like, do something like that.
Actually, this the Olympics, I think that's pretty good. So another, we're talking about precious human life, So, like gymnastics, how this body can do. Right, so also not only like meditators in the camp, but unbelievable, right? We cannot do never ever, but so that's, I think, a good example. Really appreciate how body can do, those things. So I think it's maybe a good example, I think.
So Drikung, would you say that achieving a precious human life is like winning a gold medal?
Yeah, better than I think. Maybe one day gold medal we lose, but maybe it looks like gold medal, yes, sure, but we get the gold medal, right? So maybe ordinary gold, maybe we can one day we can solve and then maybe lose, But we have this is so mentally we find it that we're not losing. So yeah, of course, it is. Yeah.
Hi. So I have two questions and also one comment. I heard a teacher once say many years ago, and he said, having a human body is as precious as finding the yolk of one egg in the ocean. And I always remembered that as such a reminder. But my questions, one is, on your poem, the 5 solid organs and the 6 hollow organs, what are they? And then I have an even bigger question, which is, when, like, we're so blessed, like you're here, and we get to do these things, and we have our bodies, and we have, big and small disturbances and obstacles. And then you have people right now who are being bombed, or who women born, all these horrible things, or people who never have maybe one taste of something wonderful in their life, in their whole existence on the earth. And I really struggle with that, of how it makes me cry because I don't know how to reconcile that. And that was, like, just being here this weekend was one of the reasons to try to help my mind, because I'm so just wrought with the suffering of so many. Excuse me.
네. 이따고 칼레 까니게서 칼라스 까니디.
So the Chiro che example di Kitu Nano Makya Pobuso Kala Wangcha Kanya Eba Umo dopo che nea de Marang Tiki Kola Samno Tangi Kabla de Capo Marang Sem Temple Capo.
그래, 나군에 맞아 이 가상디 휴여와 항상하게 갈색보다 답쪽으로 와 pen energy money 카시스 회주 치기요래 이는 뒤게 시향교 될라 가서는 무세요 또 당해요 로와 이는 거는다 그치 갈색보다 길로 그일로 마셔만 오지 차비어레스 대인들 다 될라 맞을게 다지 갈색보다 지토야 매정으로 오지 로와 대인들 다 갈색나 아무튼 어떤 의미는 다 뒤토라 지 갈색나 맞을게 규라 지가 몰람자가 그가 나지 이제 같은 오지 다 그놈 제와니 세라들이 마음이야 선배 로제야가 그가 나지 이제
So, yeah, it's true. On one hand, these days we have all different types of opportunities in the world. There's incredible power that in the human realm sometimes people have access to, especially these days. People have, wealth and money, resources to do incredible things, big things. But then also, people can use those things for bad purposes, for evil things. They can use that power that we have in our world to kill. They can use that to harm. And so when we see this in our life, it's important that we hold firm and we make prayers and aspirations for those who suffer because of that. And furthermore, that one thing that we can do to train our minds is that we should pray that in all our lifetimes we do not fall into that type of thinking and that misuse of power.
디엔디다 가서는 양다 개체쇼 찍라 그지 단기 휴가 나기래 그 깔바데 차네 그 되지 용되게 요래 근데 다 개체쇼데 지 당보 아 근무네로와 지글라 지 셈디 고카세 그러지 스탑 마차야 그러와 맞지 가서는 ignore 말와 ignore 지 말이 이네요 맞아, 오늘 authentic 그 재완으로 지구유나 단딩어서 이용 그래 장초선 장구로 서로 장초선의 장비나 장초선 오늘 장초선 정도는 그냥 지치는 가서 니발랩 시그리 조조당 그야 뭐가 비오 시그리스.
So, we have to understand one of the most important things is that, when it is the karma of the world that that kind of thing happens in our world. there are these things happening in the world. And so it's not that we ignore that, or shouldn't have love and compassion for beings in, unfortunate and terrible situations. But it's also really important that we do not get stuck in our minds, because this limits us personally, and it also limits our ability to help others in the future. And so when we see this, we have to remember, of course, we can acknowledge and not ignore, the suffering of the world. We acknowledge it, we meditate with love and compassion and so forth. But then we should harness that energy and utilize that to drive us to cultivate the enlightened mind of bodhichitta, love and compassion, and train our minds. And if we train our minds with love, compassion, and bodhichitta, then over time we can gain the capacity and power to one day change even those situations for other beings that are experiencing such misfortunes.
Okay.
So then you asked about the 5 organs and 6 hollow organs also.
That's easier, isn't it?
Well, the 5 organs are kind of simple.
5 senses.
The 5 senses are 5. Dunga. Dunga is so the 5 major organs are the heart, liver, kidneys, spleen, and lungs.
Okay. No true.
And so then the new druk, the 6 hollow organs, see, they didn't translate these. The hoa, which is like the stomach, the juma, which is like the intestines, the longa, which is like kind of the
This bigger intestines.
the juma chung.
No chibu.
Yeah, so like the juma is like the small intestines comes first, and then the second one is like the long intestines, or the large intestines, and then the tritum, which what makes the bile?
Spleen, liver, and gallbladder.
No, yeah, the gallbladder, yes.
Yeah, maybe the tritum is the gallbladder, and then the gamba, which is the urinary bladder, and then a good question, insightful. And then the last one is the samsel, which is the one of the one, it's called one dictionary has the vesicle of regeneration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the sex organs.
Yeah, probably.
I thought we were talking about chakras as these hollow organs.
So yeah, in particular, it's either the ovaries or seminal vesicles.
Kati nga so samno ji tambi na re shin chile samji me shabu yorwa. Koran so.
So if we really, look at, all these different organs, each one of these organs is really inconceivably incredible.
Kati indi karsena ta nga so samsamna di body tela na gong shu ro ji se tang ni tang leng chawa se ya ji ke chi mo yin sa des. Kana nga so ta gong se ma ya bo sa bo le body le take care chi go la bu ro wa. De ke chi mo yin sa. Ni na body ka ji tin ji yo ro wa. Ni ne yang nga so 2 things though. one thing careers na tinti precious oneself body your I think sometimes we destroy it from the food, right, body, and also this we destroy from the mind. Did you walk to the point this destroy the chick? In that you found out this aging that your body maintain that.
So, yeah, this body our bodies are incredible, and if we think about everything that is taking place, it's really inconceivable, all the different processes that go, into making us function, be aware, and so forth. And so we should take care of it. And we recognize that it is precious, but there's two things that we kind of don't do so well sometimes, and we do things that harm the body. And first is through what we eat and drink. Sometimes we harm the body, so we should be mindful about that. And then also, we can harm the body also through our mind, and so we need to be, mindful about that. Of course, other things happen. We age, and sometimes we get sick and so forth. But that can happen. But when it comes to not harming the body through our sustenance or our mind, we have some control over that. So here we have this in Drupon's poem. It says, "The fading luster of old age is magnificent." We should think about that. So, a lot of times, especially these days, people, when they think about getting old, they think, oh, I don't want to get old. My skin is getting all wrinkly, and I'm not, don't have, the same qualities of youth and so forth. And people focus on these really kind of superficial things related to getting old, and they don't appreciate what they have. Instead, though, we should realize that when we are old, we have all kinds of experience, and we have knowledge about the world that young people don't have. And there's a power to that. There's a real power to that experience and wisdom. And so we should remember that when we get older, as we get older, and not just take that for granted and worry that superficial things are not the same.
This may be changing. When a poor Tibet, tremendous respect to Gengola. Tigana Yinga Sama Tambina, Loya Gena, Tezamdik Yamyo, Tezamdik Nupa, Tezamdik knowledge, Yorwa. It doesn't come
So, the world might be changing quite a bit, but in Tibet, especially in the past, there was a tremendous amount of respect for elders. Respect for their experience, respect for their power and control over their minds. And this is something that we need to remember and focus on. So, you know, these days, if we look at like some teenagers or something, they don't have, you know, the power and capacity to do things. If we're to take some random teenager and be like, okay, you're gonna be president today, we'd be in a lot of trouble. They can't do that. On the other hand, though, if we look at people, and as people get older, generally, you know, when people reach their 40s, 50s, 60s, then they have generally more, you know, discernment and knowledge and capacity to, you know, take on bigger roles.
Okay, Vita, that's okay. See, in your days, okay, voila.
So,
See, c'est une dignamero,
Ji Nyam.
Nyam your nyam dignity. Siji Chimboyo, la vola. I can already.
Oh, Ji Nyam de Jeriala Jiba Meba Soya.
No, I can maybe.
Not truly.
Oh, okay. Ji is in a Siji, Nyam is in a dignity. Maybe the translation.
Okay. So, here the translation, maybe it wasn't me. The translation says the fading luster of old age. This actually isn't what Drupon says it means. It in fact refers to the magnificent luster, the magnificent resplendence of old age. So, majestic luster, the majestic resplendence. It's strange because the word actually can mean to like fade. So it's not like a horrible translation, but the translator translated silver. It wasn't me, but here Drupon says this is the resplendent luster of old age. There's a resplendent glow and brilliance of old age.
I got a question. Can you utilize the Lojong practice for chronic pain in the same way that you gave the example of cold air on skin or that aspect? I don't remember what you used, fire practice or
The Tumo practice
yeah, I don't
in Chile.
Yeah, in Chile.
Yata di la di jil yoris chatan la karina ji di kinala ko kanye yuatla ko transform ya la kisi kom yabina pen kom yoris jil kom wacha.
So actually that's coming up in the teaching that we're going to get to this weekend. Transforming adversity and different situations, and physical pain will be included within that, and how we can work with that.
Okay.
I have a question about, just a follow-up question for, it seemed like you were saying that it's possible to get stuck in compassion or to get paralyzed by compassion.
I don't know if Drupon was saying that particularly, but he was saying it's important that we don't, I think, get stuck in like sadness.
So that's not compassion, that's not the same thing as compassion.
그냥 stuck 기갑라. Also 미션적 기둥나 다 기갑라. Stuck 있잖아. 또 가는 경우에.
Rita telekarsa dungar tele do samna king morwa tezonda chambi debe kedi juice yona ya tele joya yodes wa jik dungai tele karso fixing kitona of course ina ya samde ti naso ju thuk morwa ina tele ko tele structure ina tele no ya morwa.
So like Shantideva's Bodhicharya avatar, the entering the way of the Bodhisattva, it says, if we do see some type of suffering and we can fix and help the situation, then of course we do what we can. On the other hand though, if there's nothing we can do, then we have to be careful not to get stuck fixating on that, suffering.
So essentially, that's the false facsimile, or the near enemy of compassion. Would you say that's right?
False facsimile, aphorism. The lota, the ninja lota, trouble. The test sem jewel,
Rita tindu ko rang ti na tsu yo ko. Rita dis ko mane ucha de yo. Kasana parjo mele digmendo sam go yori ina ya rang tel stuck cha dina. Ni ko do do cha lo fall lo cha lo.
So, in a way, we are falling into a problematic state of mind as well. If we look out in the world and we see a specific situation that we can help immediately, and we focus on how negative that is, and we focus on that, of course there might be a negative situation and people might have done negative things to create that. But if we get stuck on that negativity, then we ourselves are also making a mistake.
Yeah, ordinarily, happen a lot, so we say, oh, you are wrong. But maybe they are wrong, but my thinking is still wrong. You are wrong. So this counter like then it's almost like Buddhist. So
Maybe it's,
okay, so
or maybe the last question is,
It's really just a comment to try to clarify further for this little line. When one is overcome by an emotion related to witnessing, hearing about, seeing the horrors that go on in the world, then one becomes victim of one's own emotions and hard to maintain equilibrium that enables one to see wider circles. Is that a way to try to understand this?
tiene ko lu te like madon diskanye gores.
Maso de Zamboling ki dugna tonki kabla de Sam Nyamni Kayam Mena in this de Notre Dame Yumon Chambo Shana.
Ribu medo mado. Mari te wa ne tangi la imba. Karsena ku 탑시지 요로 탑지 탑디 요나 치네 되기로와 이는 나초 가서는 나초로 누구를 공통 되기면도 삼마티게 가르치 두고 말이스 되게 가르치 두고도 표신 정 라치 가서나 도우로와 이는 양고 오브젝트 간 니바가 통통 말이스 픽싱 가르치 두고 말와 no matter how you say
So yeah, when we see all these crazy things happening in the world, if we have a way to help, then that's good. But if we overly fixate on them and we let that get us down, and kind of get like depressed and kind of overwhelmed by it, then that doesn't change those other circumstances, and there's no benefit. And so we have to make sure that we're essentially being productive with how we reflect on suffering.
And also this we said that if working benefit others, right? Take care of others. In order to take care of others, now, okay, maybe for example, maybe somebody maybe fell down the cliffs or something, right? I want to help. So in order to have first on feet is still stable or not, so such a tempo di symbol around. Thế xem này, thế này hiện là, thế này chỉ 로바 지토 그래서 그 칼라 그거서는 다른 tempo 매와 놓지. 그리고 장나 용모 보면 손도 그거나 네 힘받대 양데 로바 지토 그거 막 스테이지는 코 맞추고 그러와.
So, in particular, if somebody, falls off a cliff and goes down in a ravine or something, and we want to help them, we want to save them, if we just kind of lean over and try to help them, that's not going to work if we're not in a stable ground. We have to have firm footing ourselves. If we just, kind of reach out and we're not stable, then we'll just fly off into the, over the cliff ourselves. And so we need to have, a stable place. If we're trying to help, save somebody who's fallen, we need to make sure we ourselves are stable. And then once we're stable, then we can pull them up.
So prayers and offering prayers and energy is something we can do, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Without getting lost.
Yeah, prayer is a powerful work, So the strength, is release the, with afflict emotions, worry, anger, hatred. Really nothing helps. So, okay, so maybe we can break here. 정조 선조 rinpo je baje banam je jurasi jewa nyamba nepa yang montu dawa sho.
By this virtue, may achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies